Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and hello to all of you. This is the lecture for chapter 3 that is on client financial planner relationship. Alright, so as for this topic, we will mainly look at how to start the relationship between you and the client. And mainly in this topic, we are going to look at how you should start the conversation, how to gather the data, what will be the communication between you and your client, as well as another things that is also important for you to know is related to the RPS, STD, CP category, or this is some kind like of the standard that has been set by MFPC for the financial planner to follow. Other than that, we will also look at some area of the related to the needs of the clients, also the resistance of the clients once they feel it is not comfortable for them to share the information with you. Alright, so in the beginning of the chapter 3, alright, it's mentioned here that the RPS stdcp category is actually provides overall perspective on how the financial planner should initiate and build his professional relationship with the client. So later on in this chapter and in another chapter, we're going to look at RPS STD category. They have a number 001, 002, 003 because it reflects the 6 steps. Okay, so the RPS code is actually in line with the 6 steps in financial planning that you have learned in chapter 1 before. Okay, now we look at why it is actually important to have a strong client and practitioner relationship, or relationship between client and financial planner. Because number one, it makes the client feel comfortable in the sense that he feels that he is well understood by the financial planner. This is why you need to have a good relationship between the financial planner as well as the client. And this is also will help the client to be able to recognize the role of the financial planner in a better way. Okay, so that is basically why you need a good relationship between you and your client. Next, we're going to look at why basically clients seek the assistance of the financial planner. Why clients seeks help of the financial advisor, or what would be the some kind of the characteristic of the financial planner that client comfortable to deal with. So if you look at this text, you can see that what should be the characteristic of the financial planner. From the perspective of the client, they feel that the financial planner must be someone that I can rely on, which means you must be someone that can be trusted. Okay, so this is a challenge for you. You have to appear, or you need a personality as someone who actually can be trusted. Okay, so it is time for you to look at the mirror and you have to evaluate yourself whether you actually fall into this category or not. So no, I'm just kidding. So which means that if you feel that, if you ask your friends that you think that my face is someone who can be trusted or not, so otherwise, if the answer is no, then you have to change your personality. Okay, the advisor must be someone I can trust. Okay, it is related to this. Rely on, you can believe on him. Okay, the advisor must be someone who put my interest first. Okay, so once the client contacted you, then you have to respond back to your client. You cannot say that I have a personal problem to deal with, so I'm not be able to discuss with you. So this is, you know, like will give a bad image to your client. So your client expect you to put his interest first rather than your interest. And another thing that is also very, very important is where you as an advisor, you as a financial planner must maintain a good relationship with your client at all the times, and you control the relationship between you and your client. All right, now we look at the characteristic. Important features from the client's standpoint. This is based on the findings of the research. And it seems that the most important features from the client's standpoint, 100% goes to the trust and integrity. You have to work on this to be someone with high integrity, to be someone that can be trusted. You also need to have a knowledge and competence to do your work, which rank number 2 with a percentage of 80%. Understanding the needs, 60%. Responsiveness is about 46%, etc., etc. But it seems that, you know, this is actually one of the most important things for you to have. The next is about the information. What financial planner should disclose to the client? Okay, information that you need to disclose to your client. So if you look at this, you have to disclose your identity, from which company you are coming from, the products that you market. Okay, so as a financial planner, as I already explained before in the previous chapter, you need to get a license for you to market certain products. Let's say it is related to the insurance, then you have to apply from the Bank Negara to be the financial advisor. Or if it is related to other market instruments, then it is related to the SC, okay, Securities Commission. So it doesn't mean that once you have an RFP, then you are qualified to sell all of the products in the market. Still, you have to follow the procedure by having a license. But having an RFP is one of the biggest license to enable you to promote any financial instruments in the market. Okay, all right. The third one is actually the product or service that he is licensed to provide. As I said before, you can't simply, if you don't have a like a license or unit trust, then you cannot simply interfere on it, because you need to be focused on what license you have, because the license is actually based on act. Okay, so the act that has been promulgated by the SC and Bank Negara. So you need this is a financial matters, it is serious issues. So once you want to collect the money from the public, you need a license. Otherwise, it is wrong for you to collect gathering information related to the financial matters from your client if you don't have a license to work on this. Okay, so you also need to provide adequate financial information disclosures to your client. You need also to disclose about your remuneration or percentage of commission to your client. All right, the information that you disclose to your client must fulfill this following standard, in the sense that it must be clarity, which means the information disclosed to the client should be written in easy to understand language from the client's context. You must not use jargon terms or difficult sentences which is hard for your client to understand. And in certain circumstances, you also need to explain in a layman term. Okay, in a layman term, dengan kata yang mudah. And also, it must be adequate for decision making of your client. And it is also based on the facts, okay, factualness. There must be no ambiguity in the presentation of the material that induce the client to buy products or engage the planner's services. So whatever information you disclose to your client must be based on facts. The next is about how you should understand the client's needs. Client's needs, it is important for you to identify what actually clients wants. Okay, so in this instance, in terms of the needs of the clients, it can be divided into 4 types. Number 1 is psychological or biological needs, and this includes essentials such as food, clothing, shelter, and safety. Alright, so once these needs are filled, a person wants to move on to the next level, that is social needs. So the social needs manifest themselves in the forms of craving the acceptance of others. Okay, craving for the acceptance of others and to be part of the society or the particular group. Alright, so the next one is about self-fulfillment needs, and this come in the form of wanting to achieve or to accomplish on something or certain endeavors which considered worthwhile by the person. And the last one is psychological needs, and these are the mental or non-physical in nature, which encompass the call for stability, consistency, integrity, etc. by the person. So this is actually the needs according to the Maslow. So by understanding the needs of the client, then you are able to give an advice what types of help that you can offer to your client, because they have needs. Okay, they have needs to fulfill. So once you understand their needs, then you can help them to fulfill their needs through, the recommendation, etc., etc. And by understanding their needs, you can also evaluate what drives the client's financial needs and wants actually. Okay, so certain people, they possibly not really spending a lot of things on the psychological or biological needs. But for certain number of people, they really spend a lot on this. Because of why? Because of their status, because of their position in the society, for example. So every person, they have different lifestyle. Alright, for certain number of people, possibly it is okay for them to eat in warung, for example, or small cafe or small restaurant. But for certain number of people, they think it is comfortable to show off their money and like eating at the expensive restaurant or the hotel sometimes, because they need for this craving for the acceptance of others and feels that they are in the group of the like rich society, for example. So by understanding these needs, you actually understand the characters of the clients and their lifestyle, and it makes things easier for you to give a suggestion or recommendation for their financial planning. Alright, just now we look at the client's need. Okay, so the client's need comprises of 4 main elements. But now we move forward towards the client financial needs. Okay, so these 2 elements actually related. One is on his personal needs, but this one is on the financial needs, which is also support the personal needs that we already discussed before. When it comes to financial needs, the concerns are related to these main 4 areas. The first one is the need to protect income and valuable asset, which means it is financial protection. And in this instance, once we talk about the financial protection, this protection means that protections against loss of income, protections against critical illness, disability, and this is related to the insurance actually, because in the insurance planning, you protect the income by having the income replacement need calculation, for example. The second is on the need to create or accumulate wealth. How you want to create or you want to accumulate wealth? Through investment. So this is why you need an investment planning. The need to conserve wealth or estate, which means you need to conserve the wealth that you have. Why you need to conserve the wealth that you have? Because you plan one day, surely you are getting old and you need to retire. So once you are retired, you need to have fund to cater for the expenses during retirement, while during this time you are supposed not to have any active income anymore. And the fourth one is what we call as the need to distribute wealth or estate, because no one in this world live forever. One day everybody will die, and whatever estate or wealth that you have will be passed and will be distributed to the next generation. So this is where estate plannings come. Okay, I repeat again some information related to the financial need number 1, that is on the financial protection. As you can see, the financial protection is on the insurance, and it protects against loss of income by using whole life insurance policy. And we also protect valuable assets such as cars, home loan. We also sometimes take what we call as MRTA for us to protect in the case of death. Alright, so in respect to wealth accumulation, as I said before, it is on the investment, and you use an investment vehicles to accumulate wealth. And in case, let's say your client has a small income, so you need to encourage your client to start small, to start to keep the money, to start to make an investment at a small amount first. Okay, later on it will accumulate and it will increase higher and higher. And investment planning, it is tied to look at the these 3 elements. Number 1 is on the risk profile of the client, whether the risk profile is moderate or aggressive or risk averse, for example. You look at the goals of the clients, what they want to achieve, as well as the needs of the client. Okay, this is important for you to identify all of these elements before you help your client to make a decision for investment for them. Right, next is about estate conservation, as it is related to retirement, how you're going to conserve the client asset and income while retirement is approaching, because income is about to be terminated. So basically you have to identify whether the asset is sufficient for retirement period or not. You have learned a lot about retirement planning from my class before. Please don't forget all of the point that you have learned over there, and the video is also available for you to make a revision on each of the topics in retirement planning. Alright, so next is how you're going to make sure that the asset is protected against inflations. Are the asset locked to prevent liquidation? Sometimes, certain asset, you lock that asset because you just want to use that for, for example, in the case of annuity, for example, you provide an income stream of certain amount for several years, for example. But what if the client has a special needs? For example, your clients need to buy a car, or at the same time they need to renovate their house. So obviously the income stream that you provide to your client might not be sufficient. So what about this? How you're going to cater for this? Okay, the income generated during retirement must be tally with the lifestyle. So alright, other than that, in the case of death, the insurance should also take care of the income generation or income replacement. So basically no need to sell the house or the property. This is also one way for us to plan for the retirement, because if you remember in the exam last semester, you deal on how you should plan to stretch the number of years using the asset of the client. So sometimes once the client start to retire, it doesn't mean that the client need to immediately sell the house or the property. So possibly by having the cash value from the insurance, it also can be used to cater for the expenses at the beginning of the retirement, and no need to sell the property in rush. Okay, and in the case of deaths, obviously need to distribute to wealth to the heirs, okay, to the children and spouse. And also in doing so, you also need to identify the assets belong to the client. How to get the client to disclose private information? It is not easy to get personal information from your client, because in financial planning, surely you need to ask, like some of the personal questions to the client. And sometimes client refuse to supply information, such as, let's say the client unable to account for his monthly spending. So once you ask for his spending lifestyle or habit, and you feel that he is, like try to hide something, so possibly, but don't judge your client in the first place. But you have to understand that is anything wrong or anything that he wants to hide. Why? He don't know how to, like where the money gone. Is that spent on the mistress or gambling or losses? Okay, if he refused to provide his true business profits, how much profits you make every month, for example, because sometimes they didn't declare the profits because they don't want to pay for income tax. All right, so sometimes he also don't want to disclose the assets because they feel that the divorce is near between he and the wife, for example. So in this situation, creativity, skills, confidence, competence of the financial planner is important to get all of this information from the client, because they have to make sure that the information is complete in the fact-finding sheet. Okay, so now we are going to look at the application of RPS CP code category. All right, and as I said before, the purpose of RPS code category is actually to provide the big picture of how the financial planner should initiate and build his professional relationship with the client. And again, I would like to repeat that these codes are actually intertwined to every step of the 6th step of the financial planning process, which function as a basic procedure for initiating and building on the client-practitioner relationship. Okay, so since that it provides the big picture of how the financial planner should initiate and build his professional relationship with the client, which means the client-practitioner relationship should be continuously reestablished, redefined, and enhanced as long as the link exists. Okay, so if you look at the comments on the existence or the creations of the RPS code, RPS CP category, we can see that there are several guidelines or characteristics of the financial planner that you have follow, okay, that you must follow. First, we can see that the practitioner is there to serve the client interests. Okay, the characteristic number 1 is where the financial planner must serve the client interests as an utmost priority. Number 2, you need to develop both personal and professional relationship. Okay, in the sense that in terms of personal relationship, you act as a friends. You have to be friendly at the same time in your interaction. Okay, but in terms of professional relationship, you must be transparent in a proactive manner, and you must keep promises within the scope of the agreed work between you and the client. And over the long relationship, okay, so this is the professional and personal relationship, and in this part we know that in all relationship over long term, the relationship can be still and break down. So from time to time, we have to reestablish the bond between you and your client. Okay, that's why the client practitioner relationship should be continuously reestablished, redefined, and enhanced as long as the link exists. Okay, so now we look at the code RPS CP01. Okay, this is the code number 1 that is on defining the parameters of the relationship. When we say parameters, it refers to the scope of the relationship. What types of relationship that you should define between you and your client. Okay, so in RPS CP01, this is the first code. Okay, now we look at the interpretive notes of 001, CP01. To ensure that the financial practitioner is clear of the client expectation and the scope of work and the type of activities to be carried out, it is important that the parameters are set, made clear to each other and mutually agreed upon before work starts. And this include, but not limited to, so in terms of parameters, what are the scope that you should cover? Number 1 is identifying the service or services to be provided. Number 2, duration of the professional engagement. And number 3 is the scope of each other responsibilities.